Win big in 2023 with Team Sync from RotoBowler. Import your fantasy teams and sync your leagues. Get customized tools and tailored advice for your specific rosters and scoring settings, including live recommendations from the live draft assistant, free agent finder, and lineup optimizer. Sync an unlimited amount of NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL fantasy teams from all of the major fantasy platforms. Get a discount for any premium pass using my promo code Knuckler, KNUCKLERRIP to Tim Wakefield. Just visit rotobowler.com/radio and start rotoballing like a boss. And this podcast is also brought to you by Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. Use my referral link and my referral code, RotoBrady. Get those sweet, sweet deposit bonuses. They've got NFL and NBA contests going. They've got free contests. Get into those player prop parlay contests, Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. It's a really fun platform. And what's up, everybody?
Fighting Series fans, your referee, Rob Mooney, has brought a stop to this fight. 1 minute and 25 seconds into round number 2. Your winner by submission by guillotine choke. And new interim 32 North Amateur Flyweight Champion, the Flyin Hawaiian, Josh Perreira.
Folks, with me today, very excited to finally make this happen. He is a 3-0 professional flyweight fighting out of Columbus, Ohio, originating out of Kailua, Hawaii. And you're going to have to correct my pronunciation if that wasn't correct. But his name is Joshua Perreira, and he is the Flyin Hawaiian, one of the best nicknames of all the flyweight prospects out there. Joshua, thank you so much for being here tonight. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Looking forward to this. Very, very honored to be on your podcast, brother. Thank you.
Well, I'm honored to have you, man. And the first two things I noticed, first of all, that sweet, sweet LFA hat that you got on.
Yes, sir.
And so I see that you got some hardware on your right hand. So what's going on there?
Yeah. My last fight, I came out victorious, but not completely unscathed. It could have been one or two things. Luke dropped me with a spinning back fist. Well, not really dropped me. I threw a left kick to the body. I was in southpaw. He threw it. I was off balance. I fell to my knee. He threw a right kick right behind it. I was able to pull, went right in front of my face, and he threw a front kick right behind that as well. I caught it a little weird, most likely. And it was either that or just from the ground and pound. I remember I was connecting with these two knuckles, and he just turned his head into me, and I felt like a rubber band pull or snap in my hand. So maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess. But yeah, I'm not in any pain or anything. And when I was in the fight, didn't hurt either. But gonna get surgery next week and right back to it. I'm still training, of course, but yeah, just a little flesh wound.
And folks, just for a reference, that fight against Luke Chokan happened back on October 7th in Ohio Combat League 26. Josh, you've got 3 wins. All your professional wins have come in the year 2023 because you're a young dude at 26. All 3 have been inside the distance finishes past round 1. So, reflecting back, because you had a decent amount of amateur fights and you haven't lost since your amateur debut back in March of 2020. How do you kind of reflect back on this year? And, how do you reflect back on the performances that you've given? Because you've been in Ohio Combat League twice, and you were at LFA 160, and everybody knows that LFA is one of the best feeder organizations in the world.
Just staying active. I was supposed to make my debut last year, but it fell through, and thankfully we were able to get my first fight in January. Very experienced guy in Greg Spearman, former bantamweight, fought at featherweight, all over the place. But yeah, just staying active and trying to catch up on lost time, and yeah, just trying to stay active. Yes.
And so let's go back to your amateur career. Let's work our way forward. Because you've made the rounds at a lot of the organizations that a lot of Ohio prospects tend to fight in. HRMMA, Ohio Combat League, B2 Fighting Series, and you racked up a handful of wins. And as we heard, you picked up that flyweight title at B2, the amateur interim flyweight title against Jalen McIntyre back in February of 2022. So, what do you have kind of to reflect on about the Ohio MMA amateur scene, and kind of the flyweights that you competed against? I know you also competed at bantamweight a little bit. But what do you think about those organizations that you kind of cut your teeth in the amateur world?
Yeah, it's a good first start to, I guess, the big show, I guess. Especially my experience with all of the regional shows helped me get ready for my LFA fight. But even saying that, the bigger shows, they all kind of feel the same. They feel the same as the small shows. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Just at first, my first fight, kind of took it a little too cocky, um, thinking I was just some scrapper from Hawaii. But you need to be much more than that to be a fighter. That was personally my most important fight because it made me realize what I needed, and I just gained more and more experience going down the line, testing myself against some of the best that Ohio and even the Midwest has to offer. But yeah, Ohio Combat League, B2, HRMMA, and Bizarro, all great organizations, all great for local talent coming up, of course. Yes.
And to that fight with Jalen McIntyre, because people fight for a lot of amateur titles like throughout their amateur career, especially when they string together a handful of wins. And so what do you think the value is in fighting for a belt, at any level in any organization? Does it kind of like cement to you that like you belong up there and that like it legitimizes your efforts when you fight for some hardware?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And also, it's also a step up with all the testing and the weigh-ins. You have to make sure everything is perfect. It feels very, very, especially for Kentucky fighting for a title. It actually gives you that little bit of like the next step of the next taste of uh, uh, professional for a professional fight. Making weight on time, being able to rehydrate properly, and then having that belt wrapped around your waist when you win. Yeah, and also, who doesn't want a nice big old flashy belt hanging up somewhere? At first I was like, for all of my amateur belts, I was like, oh, I just want to get as many as possible before I go pro. But I feel that the experience was more important than the belt itself. I gave my belts to my coach, Matt Brown, to hang up in the gym. So it gives more people hope, and gives more people allows them to work harder. And because if you work as hard as you can, train as hard as you can get whatever you want.
And you held several belts. You had the Ohio Combat League. I believe you fought for the vacant flyweight title back in 2021. You won the bantamweight title of Clash at the Casino. And that was the last fight of your amateur career. And, when you try to eye prospects, you look at who are the champions of some of these local organizations and you look at, what their age is and you check both boxes because you're a young guy at 26. You're actually only 3 days older than me. And now that I look at on Tapology. So what do you think has been the biggest adjustment, since your last amateur fight, July of 2022, which probably for you seems forever ago, and to me seems
Yeah.
ago, but that's really a really recent time, and you've racked up 3 pro fights since then. So what do you think the biggest differences are in your adjustment to the competition level, and also just in you as a fighter from that time?
Yeah. Picking up the intensity for training. Uh, And also, especially with my last amateur fight, I had to basically take a step back because I was already experienced with the head kicks and the knees to the head and the elbows to the body in Kentucky, especially for my 2 amateur fights for B2 or amateur titles for B2. And then jumping to Erie, where it's same day weigh-ins. Thankfully, I fought at 35. It wasn't too bad of a weight cut. But being able to readjust and not being able to throw head kicks or anything like that. But also, when you make that switch to pro, you get your whole tool belt. So you get to experiment a little bit more in the gym and just be able, working on being able to flow between your techniques, your clinch, your striking, and your grappling. And especially in the gym, I feel that your hardest battles are going to be in the gym, and the fight's easy, but just I see them all as just fights. There's nothing. Of course, there's different weapons that I have to be more mindful of. The up kicks, the elbows, the knees, the clinch, head kicks, everything. But once you get a good gauge, once you find your flow state, it's just human expression when you're in that cage, just expressing the body and the limits of the body and being able to strike and everything.
And it's interesting too that you fought in Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky, now in Columbus. Where are you in Columbus right now? Because I am about a mile from Ohio State Stadium. We might not even be that far from each other right now.
I'm actually right outside of Immortal Martial Arts right now. Right off of Polaris Parkway, right in Lewis Center. So I'm enjoying. My sunroof's open. Yeah, I thought it would be super cold. Getting closer to the end of October, but I guess still Ohio is still throws so many curveballs at you.
It plays tricks on you.
It could be snow. It could be snowing tomorrow. Who knows?
And I go out like in the afternoon to like take my dog outside, and I'm wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants, and I end up like hot, and then the next day that won't be even near enough.
Yeah.
Well, how did you? Because you were born in Hawaii, and you again have one of the sickest nicknames among all flyweight prospects in the world, the Flyin Hawaiian. How did you make your way, from Hawaii to Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah. After high school, I kind of got a little stagnant. Partied a little bit too much. Hung out with, uh, certain people that I don't know, just hanging with the wrong crowd. I always wanted to, or I've been a martial artist ever since I was younger. Training. I had people teach me capoeira. I did judo in high school. And yeah, I always wanted to compete, but I really didn't know where to start. I had a buddy move out here to help open up a parkour and gymnastics gym. They're also associated with Michelle Warnke, who's an American Ninja Warrior and stuff like that as well. But he was saying, "Hey, we have this big festival called the Arnold Classic, and we can get you a boxing match." I was like, "Okay, cool. I've always wanted, my parents always said to explore the mainland, but you can take the boy out of Hawaii, but you can't take Hawaii out of the boy, of course. But yeah, just wanted to experience the mainland and see what I could do. I remember I was running out in the snow, getting ready for this boxing match. I remember we had this bag hanging up in the middle of this parkour and gymnastics gym, and I was just hitting it. Didn't really, I had some boxing training, but never really any formal training. No amateur fights, no nothing like that. A lot of scuffles and drawing circles in the sand with boxing gloves and scrapping it out, but nothing really like a real boxing match. But I was ready to try and test myself, even if I lost. And I was running outside in the snow and thinking I was Rocky Balboa, going everywhere, and then I got pneumonia, which took me out of the competition. But I one day I met Matt Brown over at the bar over here that I'm sponsored at now, Rude Dog, and it was John Jones was fighting Anthony Smith for the light heavyweight belt. And I remember I talked to him. And he was like, "Oh yeah, stop by. My gym's right up the road." Blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, we hear the champ is here, and Israel Adesanya walks in, and tallest guy in the room, super nice. I remember I ran up. He had two double rum and cokes. I remember watching some of his kickboxing matches and stuff. I was like, "Oh, Izzy, you're gonna beat the crap out of Kelvin Gastelum," because he was in town for the press conference for the Kelvin Gastelum interim middleweight title, and as I yell at him saying, "You're gonna beat Kelvin Gastelum," if he drinks both double rum and cokes down to the ice, and he's like, "I know," and he keeps walking. He sits right in front of the projector that they had, and I remember walking back up to him. I'm shaking. I get his autograph. He signs it, and he's just like looks me up and down. He's like, "You don't look like you're from around here." And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm originally from Hawaii. I'm Hapa Haole, half Filipino or half local, and my other half is white." So just we were just talking, and he he's just like, I didn't know where to start. I was just like, I had just gotten done talking to Matt, and he points over at Matt again. He's just like, that's where you start. That's where you start right there. And as soon as I made up enough money, I came over here. I started, and I went up to my manager Rick now, and I just told him I just want my first fight. I want to see where I am. I want to see what I can do. And I took my first fight on a week's notice, fought at Kemba Live, or Express Live as it was called back then, and I lost. It was the most important fight I've ever had because it made me realize what I needed. And of course, I visit home quite often, even with my fiance now. Um, but I have some goals that I've set out for myself before I do move back home to Hawaii. But this is other than the cold, Columbus ain't too bad.
Dude, that story about Izzy is amazing. That is such a fantastic anecdote, and it seems to it seems like it steered you right. At least like it gave you a good idea of like, all right, like if I get a good coach and stick to this, like I can make my way in this.
Absolutely. After that first one, it just lit a fire in me. I was there every single day, 4 or 5 times a day. I was even 3 to 4 times a day. 2 classes in the morning, 2 classes in the evening. But even more so during quarantine, my friend, one of my best friends, and the person in charge of Immortal Diet Optimization, Eddie Rovac, he would just text me at random times and like, hey, let's meet up at the park. Cold, if it was snowing outside, if it was raining, if it was hot, if it was whatever, we would just go out to the park and just hit pads for hours and hours and hours. There was a little racetrack or a little track at the park too, so we would just go running and running and running. But it was just that I love that camaraderie that we're both trying to make each other better. And then meeting Lucas Siebert and so many of my other teammates here as well, them all of us rising and getting better. Everybody always says 1% every single day, and that's absolutely right. Even you can even learn so much after your body quits on you, so you start looking into other stuff, literature, so you can start studying up on strengthening your mind as well. So just so many things. Even Matt being able to just pick his brain, and him putting so much time and effort. My striking coach Shane Nietzsche, Cameron Knight, our jiu-jitsu coach, even going up to Adamas when I teach kickboxing and MMA, working with Dante Leon and Max Hansen. Just it's slowly getting better every day. Best foot forward every time.
And I know you were driving back from Toledo last night because you were teaching
Yeah.
there. What's the value in that for you? Because I mean, that's obviously somewhere you got to spend a lot of time in the car. I made the drive to Toledo. It's not a short drive, and it's not an exciting drive on the way to Toledo.
No.
But what's the value that you get in going and traveling to different places and either training or teaching at different locations?
It takes you out of your comfort zone at first. Being exposed to a new group of savages or killers, being able to train with all the comp team out of Adamas, and also being able to teach the things that work, watching these kids walk in, and their shoulders are forward, their heads down, they don't want to really make eye contact with you, but then slowly but steadily they start standing up a little better. I guess I'm in for it for teaching the martial arts aspect of it. I feel everybody should be exposed to martial arts, and even just not even necessarily fighting, being able to defend yourself if something were to happen. And being able to work with, again, Dante, Max, Nick, Lawson, Josh, and Kelly is a great boxing mentor over there at Adamas as well. So, just taking in what you need, expelling what you do not need. But there's a lot of stuff that I continue to look forward to with training, being able to implement something new, being able to implement something that no one's ever seen before, maybe in the MMA aspect, or just just rounding off your game, just I feel people should travel, even though I still have so many killers here. I still love going up to Stout. I love to go in Pittsburgh. I love going back home and testing my skills, being able to see what works against certain fighters from different places, especially around the United States, is extremely important.
And it's very interesting that you said that you kind of like, you got a little bit started in capoeira and with judo and stuff like that, because you can totally tell when watching your fights, with the kicks that you throw, the way that you look to set things up. Your leg kicks are beautiful. They're like beautiful savagery, the way that you throw them. And it seems like you transition between different aspects of MMA pretty seamlessly within fights. And that's something that you had mentioned before, is just in the fight against, Jalen McIntyre. That's the fight I'm freshest off of watching of yours, is where, you go from a question mark kick to shooting for a takedown to ground and pound to a standing guillotine. And I think that right now is the thing that would scare me the most if I'm an Ohio flyweight who's going to be facing off with you in the cage.
Yeah, and especially that being a fight that's almost 2 years old at this point now. I still have the crazy kicks in my back pocket. I still have the judo throws off the cage or even in space. But um, I want to, I just want to put on a show. I want people to go, wow, we had no idea who this guy was. Where was he? I was always a fan. Me and my brother used to always watch the Gladiator movie as a kid. So, I really like that aspect, that not just for the glory, but, being able to one day not worry about things, start making enough money so you can start doing whatever you want, winning the crowd, winning your freedom kind of stuff, I just love it. I love it. I love how fun it is. It's I don't enjoy hurting people, but I love the technical aspect of the fight game. But at the end of the day, it is a business. I don't have any enemies, especially my opponents. I don't see them as enemies. It's just a job.
And that's the thing I love about Hawaii sports all over the place, whether it's combat sports, whether it's Hawaii Rainbow Warriors football, is it has a very unique flavor as compared to anything else that there is in the continental United States. And you, oh, damn it, I had what I was going to next. And you just said the business of the sport.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you have a manager, you have sponsors. Talk a little bit about the importance of finding a manager that works for you, and what kind of the process has been for you in trying to secure sponsors so that you can do more of the stuff that's going to allow you to improve in this sport and worry less about how you're going to continue to do it.
Yeah, managers are extremely important. If it wasn't for Rick Voorhees, I wouldn't have gotten this far. He's been the one helping me with getting my fight shorts, my sponsors, being able to create these long-lasting relationships with the sponsors. So it's not just, oh, give me money to fight. No, these are actually, we can have a relationship with these people. And also it takes it's one less thing you have to worry about as a fighter. You just focus on the training aspect, and he's I ask a question or anything like that, he's instantly on it. Having somebody that will help you no matter what, to get you set up for your next fight is extremely important. All these little pieces make a gigantic part of this puzzle.
Well, so now that you're 3-0 as a professional, and whether this is something that you want to think about, because a lot of people would say that they don't think about it. I'm sure a lot of people don't think about it, but you look at every single place that you're ranked: Kentucky, Ohio, the U.S. Midwest, the United States. You're rising up the flyweight prospect rankings, and I'm greatly assuming, and I might be wrong, that flyweight is fully where you intend to stay. And flyweight is a place where if you make an impression, you can rise up the prospect list very quickly. So, what is, this is so hard to say, and I understand that, but it's like, what are your goals for the next, 1 year, 3 years? Where do you want to be then? And how do you think that you get to where you want to be?
I'm just gonna keep training, you know. I'm not a man that necessarily uh well, I plan out stuff, you know. Uh but you know, who knows? I'm just gonna keep training. I just love training. So I'll just keep doing it for as long as I can and see how far it can take me, you know. If you said if you asked me 3 years ago, um, before I made my pro debut, and asked me, oh, or told me, hey, did you know that you're going to be headlining Kemba Live, the first place that you ever lost? Three, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But you know, who knows where I'm going to be in 3 years? Maybe a phone call from a bigger organization, one, or maybe I'll be there, one, UFC, Bellator, Ryzen, wherever. I'm just I'm just going to keep fighting on the regional circuit, even hopping up to possibly LFA, APFC. They've reached out to us a couple times, and just keep getting experience because I want to be ready when I am in there. When I get that call, I want to be ready on a moment's notice when I get that phone call.
Check out that T-shirt. I'd love to see you in some competition against some of Asia's best prospects in the flyweight division.
Absolutely. Hey, a little bit closer to home too, as well.
That's crazy to think about, especially considering where you are now, smack dab in the middle of the U.S. And it's crazy too, because like, you know, there's events there, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of events on UFC Fight Pass every year from organizations that are new and old that have been putting people in the UFC for a long time or that are completely brand new. And so the opportunities that are out there are endless. And at flyweight, again, you can set yourself apart so quick from the rest of the field, and especially you being a younger dude.
Absolutely. You know, uh, after my hand heals up, and hopefully after my next fight, I'll have more people, you know, on board, I guess. You know, listening in, watching. And like I said, I'm not boastful. I'm not cocky. I used to want to climb mountains too, for the world to see me. But you know, I just want to see the world now.
Damn, that's a beautiful way to put that. And you do seem like, you know, a pretty quiet, you know, reserved personality, but you know, I see you after those fights, you know, you're super excited and passionate about what you're doing in there. And so we'll end off on this question, you know, because it's been such a microwave of time, you know, since your amateur career, the start of your professional career, those 3 wins. What are the biggest, you know, things that you are trying to improve as a fighter and as a person so that you can be the best fighter that you are moving forward? Because, you know, it's been, you know, it's been so long since your last loss. Your first fight, amateur or pro, is your only loss still to date, with one draw in there, I do believe. But you know, if I, watching your fights, had to say anything, I'd say that in some situations, you know, maybe you put yourself in some worse situations than you needed to, because either maybe that aggression, you know, maybe it's the, you know, wanting to mix it up and wanting to throw, you know, what you need to get someone out of there. But it seems like something that you've really curtailed over your last handful of fights. So what do you have to say about that?
Um, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. You know, Ali used to always say, hardest part of training was to stay out of the bars and stuff, you know. So I'm just gonna keep doing my thing, train with some of the best killers, best fighters in the world, and uh, yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. That's it.
Well, folks, we're in a UFC off week this week. This has been another Roto Baller interlude episode on Tap That. You can follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook at Tap That MMA Podcast. With me tonight has been Joshua Perreira, the Flyin Hawaiian, my favorite flyweight prospect, hailing out of Columbus, Ohio. Joshua, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm so glad that we got to do this. If you have anything else that you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hey, first things first. Thanks for having me on, brother. I know it's been kind of hectic trying to figure something out, but I also want to thank my coaches, Matt Brown, Mark Coleman, Shane Nietzsche, Harrison, Cameron Knight, Jimmy Lobo, Dante Leon, Max Hansen, Kelly, my friends and training partners, Miles Robinson, Lucas Siebert, Cameron Jenkins, like just all of my teammates, Immortal Martial Arts, my friends, my teammates at Ronin, Stout, wherever, just everybody, my family back home in Hawaii, my sponsors, Aloha Beef Chips, Thrax THC, Immortal Coffee, Immortal Meals, Immortal Diet Optimization, Rude Dog, and yeah, and the big man upstairs.
Folks, that's Joshua Perreira, the Flyin Hawaiian. Follow him on social media anywhere that you can. Follow his fights because his fights are exciting. His future is even more exciting. This has been another interlude episode of RotoBallers official MMA podcast. Tap that. Thanks for listening, folks. We got more interlude episodes coming. This is a UFC off week. John Jones isn't fighting anymore. It's been a crazy few weeks. Have yourselves a good night and peace.
Peace. Thank you.